read the introduction email, so.
Yeah, nice. So you know about Danny's preference for moisturizer then, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure he even knows I've written that in there, mate, but now he does.
Okay.
That's funny.
Every guest up to now thinks you're obsessed with moisturizer, mate.
Yeah, it's fine. I am, in fairness.
Yeah, you're a slippery.
That's how I get out of leg
roll,
locks is extra moisturizer, so.
Mate, that's it. I'm a dirty leg locker.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, you good to go, mate?
Yeah, I'm good to go. How's it look? Looks good. I got my mom's painting in the background.
I think that's perfect, mate.
Yeah.
Good, look good for the shorts.
Yeah, perfect. Ian, welcome to the podcast, mate. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
No, absolute pleasure, mate. Before we get you on and have a little chat, obviously you're one of this new wave of wrestlers that are dominating the jiu-jitsu scene at the moment. Obviously, you recently were in the Nogi Worlds and obviously made it to the final with Brandon, who's another wrestler, who's also a friend of the podcast as well. So we thought we'd start there, mate, and just see what your, I guess, your feelings and your reflections on the Nogi World Finals are sort of a couple of months removed now.
Yeah, the feelings are mixed. Anytime I can go out there and give 100% effort, I'm happy. But the result wasn't a win, so not satisfied. But Brandon, it was nice to get beat by someone like with really good wrestling that like brought out my level of wrestling. Like I still made mistakes, and I'm sure he made mistakes when he reflects, but it was a very fun finals match. It's the second time we've competed. Our first one, he beat me pretty close, pretty similar way. But he's very good, and I think we'll probably be running into each other more. And I like him. It sucks to be getting beat by someone. I'm like, God, I like this guy. You know, it's easier to go out there with animosity. But I can turn off my my admiration and just go out there and compete. But it was a good finals match, and I'm very grateful to have opportunities to compete against people like him. So I'm really happy and thankful I got to go against Brandon.
Yeah, no, I actually watched it again last night. I watched it on your channel actually. So thanks for sharing that and making that available for us. But yeah, and it was because I was watching it on your channel. There wasn't a display of the points.
Yeah,
and obviously, sort of earlier in the match, there was a lot of there was quite a bit of ref involvement. What was happening there? I wasn't too sure.
Yeah, so we kept getting hit for stalling, like passivity. It was pretty strange because I guess I've gone back and reread the rules. They want to see like a real attack, like an authentic attack, which, I thought we were both doing really well. And I don't think they count like a half shot single. Like I might take that shot. I don't need to dive in on a leg and hit my knees to get someone down, and neither does Brandon. So we kept getting hit for passivity. It was when it was going on in the match, you can see me. I look and I'm looking at my coaches. I'm looking at Brandon and I'm going, are we getting hit for passivity? It was like really hard to follow. Yeah. But it was strange. I was like trying to keep up with what was going on with the ref while doing this. And then, I am pretty like able to joke around in a match. So I'd look at Brandon and be like, what is going on? What? And so I try and, it was pretty fun. It was fun. It was different to be hit with that much passivity for whatever reason,
Yeah, and we'll get into this a little bit in a little while, but I wonder if it's again, I don't know, like, two wrestlers like clinching up. You guys, are aware of those little details and those little movements that you're working, but I don't know, maybe the ref isn't. Perhaps that's part of it. I don't know. Yeah,
maybe. And I'm fine with it too. Like if that is how they're going to judge it, okay, cool. I'll adjust. No problem. This is their sport. I'm coming over from wrestling. I'll adjust. I have no problem. I'll never complain about any of that. And maybe I'll use it to my advantage. I have some gamesmanship and get someone else hit for passivity,
Just pull guard, mate. You'll be all right.
Well, that is how I will end my career. I promise on everything. I will be pulling guard, ripping people's legs by the end of my career.
And I noticed that when I was watching it, I could see the confusion from you, which is why I thought I'd mention it and ask. But but obviously the sort of later part of the match was when it got a little bit exciting, and you guys started sort of scrambling, and Brendan obviously got that position. I mean, thinking back to that part of the match, I mean, anything that you feel you could have done different or that Brandon did very well?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I've gone over, watched it. And I've already been practicing my my sprawl, as Pat Downey has pointed out. Yeah, so his last shot, he gets in, and I know that position well. You get in on either a double or a single. You're on your knees, so you're able to still drive up, but he's still going to be mobile, and that's where either you have to commit to the sprawl and like get your weight on top of his back and get his hands carrying the weight, and then try to spin or reshot, or like let them come up and go for like a whizzer. I got kind of stuck in between both. Probably relying on strength too much, and not committing to a technique. So yeah, I should have been sprawling there, get back to a front head, like sprawl front head. I'm trying to give away my game plan here, but that's what I think would have been successful. And then his ability to drive up, to go to body lock, to do the throw over, to get behind my elbows. He's very good at like these kind of unusual ways to get behind bigger guys. And it's not like unusual. It's just he's doing shot to a body lock to a throw over. And that's just much more effective than trying to like run a double, because you're going to go out of bounds. So he's really picked up on some nuances of the jiu-jitsu wrestling that are quite effective, as I know. But yeah, he got behind me. He couldn't pick me up. I'm grapevining. I do a lot of sessions with J Flow, who's very good at not getting thrown. And then he finally did the cutback, the old school cutback where he trips me from behind. So, if I hit his switch right there's one more option for me to keep scrambling, but it was really good. He wrestled really well and did a great job. So shout out to him. I like him. He's good.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy, mate. Isn't he? It's hard to like even shit talk him ever, because he's like the nicest guy we've probably ever interviewed.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. And then obviously when you guys then hit the deck, he was able to secure that back position quite quickly. Anything that you, in reflection, you could have done different with that?
Yeah, not letting hooks in. He's real. I will say this. I've watched a few people that are able to get hooks in from that turtle position. He is really effective at it. Like, I can stop most people from getting hooks in practice, closing up, blocking with my elbows, but he just shot his legs in really fast. I've noticed Nicky Rod does that really well. I think this is the next evolution of wrestlers, is like getting the takedown, getting that position, and then immediately getting hooks in or a body triangle. Like, that's what I got to focus on. So he did that really well. There was an interesting part of that match. I don't know if you picked up on it. When he had the body triangle locked, apparently he can get hit for passivity there. Did you know this?
No, because I saw that he got the hooks in first, got the points, then switched to the body triangle. But I did hear someone from the sideline saying to go back to the hook, so I didn't know why. Yeah,
so he and I each had 2 or 3 passivity calls. And if he had gotten hit with the third, it would have been a DQ.
Okay.
If he'd gotten one more, I had no idea. Someone told me this after, and I was like, oh, that would have been silly. Like, if I had won by DQ after getting taken.
Oh, man, that would have been so much worse, wouldn't it? That would have been horrendous. Like, you'd just be like, oh, my God, such a stupid DQ as well.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I would have given him the medal. Like, it would have been stupid. But yeah, that was like another weird little nuance of those rule set, where he had the body triangle in and he had like take it back out, or else he would have gotten hit for passivity.
What?
Yeah.
Is that like a new rule, or has that always been the rule? Because I kind of get it to a certain extent, because if you get someone in a body triangle, it is so hard, but you've worked so hard to get there, and you kind of deserve the rest and the to be able to work and try and choke them out. That's what the work you've done to get to that point.
Hey, I agree.
To have that rest and have that
the time
there to work. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
in jiu-jitsu, like,
I agree. But apparently, if he holds it for like 20 seconds, or I don't know what the exact seconds is, but I think it's 20, without securing like some sort of choke or a threat of a submission, that it's considered another passivity. And then he would have been DQ'd. It would have been very funny. It would have been hilarious, but then the match wouldn't have been is like talked about, or maybe even talked about more, but it was just something of note. I was laughing about. I was like, oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I wasn't aware of that as a thing. So yeah, there you go.
Next time I'm going to make sure that figure four stays in. I'm going to be holding his foot there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just don't let it go. It's like putting in a reap in it.
Yeah, mad. I didn't actually get the opportunity to watch any of your matches prior to that. Guessing they would have been against more traditional jiu-jitsu practitioners, perhaps. Can you give us a quick rundown of those matches and how you got on with those guys?
Yeah, it was. I focused on not letting anyone touch me and pulling guard. So I was actually shooting really far from the outside. Again, like, I don't know how good everyone is, if they're going to be able to keep up with the pace, if they're going to be able to pull guard and start scoring, maybe sweep me. But I was just not touching anyone until, like, I was faking from the outside and I would shoot in. I took everyone down and I passed everyone's guard. I've been pretty focused on guard passing for like the last 2 months. Ever since Aiga, where I just was bulldozing forward in full guard, which as a wrestler feels good. But I mean, I'm learning fairly quickly. I've been making lots of mistakes since starting jiu-jitsu. So I had made that adjustment. I was able to start knee cutting and putting some like actual technique in to pass a guard. So that was pretty much how all my matches went. Takedown, guard, pass, trying to work for a submission. If they get guard back, half guard, pass again. That was pretty much every single match.
And what's your typical submission to go to from that sort of journey or that path, if you can get to it?
Typically, if I can get to side control, start threatening Kimura. Threatening Kimura, I'd like to have a good arm triangle. I don't have one yet. That'd be like the classic. My next step will be, seatbelt and then throw hooks in. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the next thing I work on, is really controlling the back. I never rode legs, it's called in wrestling, which is hooks. So a lot of wrestlers have leg riding, which is hooks. I never had it throughout my wrestling career. So I have to focus on that next. But yeah, it's typically Kimura or just like let them regard and pass again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, straight arm bar off the Kimura if I do it backwards, which I have done. So
yeah. Good.
Yeah.
And we obviously mentioned at the start that you're sort of one of many wrestlers coming into the sport. And I saw you did a video yourself, I think in the last couple of weeks on your own channel, where you were talking about the fact that wrestlers are here. And I think you had obviously you and Brandon. We've seen Pixley obviously competing as well. Yeah. And I think even at Blue Belt, obviously Pet Downey, and then of course Helen, who is obviously a gold medalist in the Olympics. So we're seeing a ton of you guys coming through and being a bit of a nuisance at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, historically, you would have maybe seen, I guess, wrestlers go into maybe MMA more, maybe even WWE or something like that. I mean, why do you think a lot of the wrestlers are now turning to jiu-jitsu as a sport of choice to go into?
I got a few takes. Well, first of all, I'm very happy, and it feels funny being included in all those names. Again, I never even made it to the NCAAs. I just was on Division I team. I never really did anything in college wrestling. So I love hearing my name thrown around with those much better wrestlers. Very happy about that. But I think the attraction is, one, it's like jiu-jitsu is fun. Like jiu-jitsu is really fun. And now and I've talked about this like with friends so in depth, wrestling is, you get a certain amount of time. It's, always attached to a school. It's always collegiate. It comes, it goes, and then it's gone. Like you can't go back. I can't go back and enter another tournament. It's over. And so what happens is there's a lot of like talent, or there's a lot of people that just feel like, oh, dang, I was not ready for that. Like I started college when I was 17. I was very immature. I was not ready for college wrestling. When I started, I was just not fully focused. And that's probably why I'm doing jiu-jitsu now. It's like I felt very unfulfilled. But that is the attraction, is you have so many athletes that are looking back at like their wrestling career going, God, I wish I could have done more. Like you either go to the Olympics or you don't. You either win an NCAA title, and even then you have NCAA champions who there's nothing after that. You just go get a normal job. Like the college positions for coaching, they're full. Like a lot of people try to, but if there's 10 All-Americans, like one will get that coaching position. So there's like an abundance of people who still have more left in the gas tank that want to continue. That's why I love jiu-jitsu. Anyone can go walk into a jiu-jitsu gym and start working towards a world title. That is not how it is in American wrestling. And I think that leaves a lot of people left with wanting to do more. So I think that's the attraction. There's money, obviously. I know the new rules for the NCAA, athletes can start accepting money from sponsorships. That's not how it was when I came through. But the attraction of money, being able to compete more opportunity to like try different rule sets. You can go to ADCC, you can go to these other ones, AIGA and so forth. There's money to be made. It's fun. It's exciting. It's scary. I think we're going to see an absolute flood of wrestlers coming through more and more.
Great. Okay, so it's because we've obviously seen, certainly with CGI now, we've seen obviously this increase in purses and financial gain, but it's obviously a little bit of that, of course, because people have got to make a living and pay the bills. But you think it's probably just maybe the level of competition that you're seeing in jiu-jitsu and grappling now that's attracting people as well.
Yeah. You're telling me I can go work towards a world title like right now at 33? I'm in. Didn't know I could do that.
Yeah, it is so appealing, even for me at 35. You think you could still, even if I train for the next 5 years and I don't win a world title till I'm in my 40s.
Yeah.
It's still really cool, isn't it? To be at a world title at any age, at any masters, it's still something that can drive you to still better yourself, Yeah. And that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look at like Wagner Rocha and Cyborg.
Yeah, mate.
Like, are you kidding me? Yeah, but for wrestling, even like a Jordan Burroughs and stuff, like those guys, you still have to be. It's almost always from NCAA collegiate wrestling to Olympic Training Center to the Olympics. The only person who didn't do that I can think of was Henry Cejudo, who just went straight freestyle, didn't go to a college. I think he trained at Iowa. I think he was training at Iowa. And he was considering going to Iowa. He's the only person who didn't take the collegiate route. But that just shows you how limited it is. You told me you have to go through college. You have to have this 4-year window of competing. And then the attraction of having the degree, you're an athlete, it's almost traditionally it's the standard of I'm going to go get a job now, which is what I did. Like, well, I can't make money wrestling. You can't really open a wrestling gym, which I'm now doing. I just didn't know that before or consider it. It's like you have to get a job and carry on. It's very, very limiting. I love jiu-jitsu. Like, God bless jiu-jitsu. It's the best. Anyone can do it. Go be a world champion. I love it.
Yeah, nice. So what was your transition then, mate? So you obviously were at college wrestling. You were 17, you said. And forgive our ignorance, we're not entirely sure what the ages of college and everything is in the States. It's probably different to the UK.
Yeah.
But you just mentioned then about getting a job. I mean, at what point was there a hiatus from grappling, and then did you come back to jiu-jitsu? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So 17 to 19, I was trying to make a run for the NCAA title, right, for wrestling. I snapped my pec, my first match at heavyweight. Locked up a quick. No. This guy's squeezing, or I'm squeezing, he's kicking, and my pec literally blew off my shoulder. And that's a bad injury. It's a bad injury.
Yeah, that's a savage injury, mate.
Yeah, it's like it rips off the bone. There's tendon. I thought I was cramping during the match. So I obviously I'm yelling, going, squealing. They call timeout, and the trainer's there, and I'm like, I think I'm cramping because it was rolled and stuck in the middle.
Yeah, all bunched up, yeah.
I'm like, just like work it back out, just uncramp it. So I'm sitting there pushing my pec. I'm going, it's not helping. I tried to get up, and then we got back to the standing position. I went to like use my arm, and I was just like, I fell over in pain. I was like, something's off. And they stopped it. So that was like this devastating injury. I did not wrestle anymore. I had a disagreement with the coach at Cal Poly. He didn't take it as serious as I would have liked to. Come in hungover to practice, and I'd be like, "Hey, dude, I'm trying to pull my wrestling career together at the final stages here. Can we start working hard?" And so I ended up quitting, and then my like athletic training just went to an MMA gym at San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly, the Pit. So I just stopped wrestling at 19, and I would train MMA for fun, no real grappling. Cruz Gomez was the coach there. He was really good. So we'd get some grappling with the MMA in. This is the gym where Chuck Liddell started off at. It's called the Pit. Small world, but the training there was MMA, and then Jesse Taylor, the UFC fighter, the MMA fighter, he was always around. He's a Poway guy as well. I've known him since I'm like 10 years old. I've always helped him train for his fights and being a wrestling partner, just going into the old wrestling room wrestling. And so I would just get my like grappling in from him trying to choke me. Then I'd like follow him around to open mats, and I'd just be the wrestler, getting triangled. And I didn't do any jiu-jitsu. I just got a job, worked for 8.5 years, and I would just occasionally do some open mats. And then I started jiu-jitsu 18 months ago, July 1st, 2023. Yeah, 2023. And just jumped into an 80cc open. I was just sitting there, after an open mat at my gym, 10th Planet Poway, and they're like, you should just do an 80cc open. There's one in TJ coming up, Tijuana. Why don't you try it? I was like, you know what? I will. I was my baby boy was going to be born. I had a little downtime. I had a break from work, and I was like, yeah, I'll try it. And I went and did it. And by the time we were walking back over the border from Mexico, I was like, I knew I was going to do jiu-jitsu somehow for the rest of my life. And I was like, I need to figure out how to make this work like full time and make a living, because I'm not going back to like a day job. I was like, I love this. I like fell in love with it in the first 5 minutes of the first match.
Yeah, we feel you, mate. I think we're both in that position.
So many people, have that
change your life just for jiu-jitsu, and I think that's what's happened with us.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did that start with you guys? You were lifelong practitioners, or came in later in life like I did?
So I'm later, mate. I've only been training just over 2 years.
Amazing.
And Paul's been doing it for 20
time.
years, maybe.
So my journey's been very sporadic. So I've always been a hobbyist. I've never really been a competitor. We didn't in the UK. I don't know how much you know about the sort of schooling and the sport here, but we don't really do any combat sports at school. So we don't wrestle. You get a bit of boxing, but it's not in schools. So you mostly play soccer or football and maybe sort of a bit of rugby.
Wow.
So I started boxing as a kid, and then got to like, I don't know, about 18, started drinking and dating and that sort of thing, and got a bit fat, and then got into Muay Thai when I was about 20. And at that club, they were doing like old school MMA. So I started doing that, and then eventually threw a gi on and started doing in jiu-jitsu. But like I say, I've always been a hobbyist, so I've always been in and out. I'm still a brown belt, 20 years on, but getting there slowly but surely. But I've been around the scene for a long time. So it's interesting chatting to guys like you and Danny, who have been in it sort of like a couple of years, but have come in at a really good time. Because when I did it, certainly in the UK, it was like a black art. Like nobody really did jiu-jitsu. There was no resources around learning. There wasn't a great deal of training partners. It was a completely different world.
Yeah. And I think now it's so easy to learn, isn't it? Because you can get any bit of information just off the internet or just from your coaches, or it's all regurgitated over and over again. So again, you feel like I've only been training a few years, but you feel like you get better so quick because as long as you focus on it, you're able to do it,
Yeah, computer, pull up YouTube, boom, you can start learning. Yeah, it's incredible. That's cool.
With the wrestling transition across to jiu-jitsu, I mean, I think, some of the guys that we mentioned, including yourself, have got a bit of press recently because of the competing at the Worlds. Yeah. And this might, again, be our ignorance, but I'm not familiar with, like, smaller athletes making such headway. I mean, being a little bit more in the know, do you see smaller sort of wrestlers coming across, or is it typically the sort of a bigger person's advantage to do?
Yeah. As it comes from like collegiate, like college wrestling, I'm having a hard time thinking, but I know a smaller guy at my gym, Callum, who just took second at blue belt. He got buggy choked with like 10 seconds left. He was up 5.
Oh, mate.
classic wrestler.
So gutted.
But he wrestled. My high school is an extremely good high school wrestling program, public, and like the whole program here in Poway is like world renowned for wrestling. So he came through that. He's also Irish, so he spent time back in Ireland. But he's a really good wrestler, and he never wrestled in college. I think he's 19 years old. And he just took second at Blue Belt Worlds and probably should have, not should have won. He lost, but he was right there to win it. So there's one. He's a smaller guy, not too small. He's probably 170, but there's some no one, is noticing from, NCAA or collegiate wrestling. I think there's probably more of that. There's going to be these wrestlers that have high school experience that haven't gone to a college yet. Maybe they're younger, and they're going to be making some headway pretty quick. I think we're going to see these hybrid athletes coming up. Where you can't tell what they're doing because they're doing both at the same time. Yeah,
and I wonder if you'll see more and more of that.
You talk about it a lot, though. It's kind of American Jiu Jitsu, isn't it? It's not Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Keenan talks about it quite a lot. It's American Jiu Jitsu, which is it's wrestling, grappling. In their Jiu Jitsu.
I'll say this: I'm a starch defender of my Brazilian brothers. I like to give Keenan a hard time. Definitely, I think some American has to be the counterpoint to it. The wrestling that I've experienced from the Brazilian athletes is really good. Like Andre Galval's blast double is a ridiculously good double, like technically. And they've like found wrestling without finding American wrestling. And I know a lot of them early on trained with some college wrestlers, but I don't think it was as public as we all know. So they have good wrestling. They have really good wrestling, but you're right. This is more of an American jiu-jitsu style of where there's high school wrestling involved. There's jiu-jitsu, maybe there's a little MMA mixed in. It's very hybrid, so to speak. But I'll say the Brazilians have great wrestling.
It feels like it's, I don't know, like a different type of jiu-jitsu completely at times, because you watch some of your, like you again, watch some of your matches and Brandon's matches, and very little on the ground jiu-jitsu seems to happen. It's all based around obviously the wrestling, the takedown, and the pinning. Yes. And the actual technicalities of the submission, you can negate even someone who's good at jiu-jitsu. And I find that sometimes it's like we're taking away the actual jiu-jitsu part of jiu-jitsu, if that makes sense. And I always think, like, how can we get back? Like, I really enjoy someone pulling guard and having a really good guard and watching someone trying to beat that guard, because I enjoy the technical side of the jiu-jitsu, and I can appreciate that. And I understand from a outside point of view, it's not the best to watch, but from us who's like these little jiu-jitsu nerds, I enjoy seeing a good guard player.
That was kind of why I asked actually about the size thing, because little man jiu-jitsu and big man jiu-jitsu is kind of a little bit different typically. I mean, you've got your like Victor Hugo's who moves like a lightweight, but he's massive. But a lot of big guys, it is more of a kind of a wrestling style of jiu-jitsu, it seems, and a top pressure style of jiu-jitsu. And I wonder if that's, again, where wrestlers do have that edge, which is why the bigger boys are coming in. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely when you're heavier, being on top is even more advantageous. There's literally more pounds on top of you. Oh, let me point out PJ Barch. PJ Barch wrestled at Division I college briefly.
And he is slick, mate. He is so good. He is so good.
There is a guy that people don't know has Division I wrestling experience. And he's he's huge, but at 7, he's so big at 77. I don't know how he makes it, but he's a 77 kilo guy. He kind of has a big guy style, but he also has like the slickest, knee bar or heel hooks and leg attacks ever.
Yeah. No, he's definitely one of those people who's just outside of the box with that, isn't he? Because you look at him and he looks like a jiu-jitsu practitioner through and through. He doesn't look like he has that background of wrestling. Yeah. But I guess like as people like yourself and Brandon and you're all going to develop, you're going to get better at jiu-jitsu. You look at Nicky Rod over the years, he started with that. And now Nicky Rod is unbelievable at jiu-jitsu. Not the wrestling, not all the other stuff. He is a really good jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's a black belt. He's a legit black belt, and now he's like putting all that style together. Yeah. And I think I think that's it. It's that transitional period. And I think as jiu-jitsu keeps going, these young lads are going to come through and they're going to be doing, like we said, I think they'll be doing wrestling and jiu-jitsu at the same time. And they'll just go through and then they'll just smash everyone.
Yeah. I think jiu-jitsu will be develop better wrestling, and then it will even back out. Look at my example is kind of Duarte. I have if my life is dependent on getting kind of down, it's 50-50. And if he gets, like, if I get him down, I can't hold him down. Like if the moment I'm in his guard, I'm in trouble, right? Kind of gets me down, it's a wrap. Game's over. I've lost. So there's to me, there's the peak of it right now. Like the best, obviously the best jiu-jitsu athlete right now, but he's the guy that has wrestling. He can stay on the feet with anybody. And if he gets you down, it's over. But if you get him down, he's going to be able to get a sub. He's going to be able to do something. So right there, I think is the peak of it. Same with Ronaldo, who I train with. There's a guy that would pull guard or shoot a blast double at the same time. And you're seeing that. Same with Janatis Gracie, those three guys right now. But again, Kynan is like the example in my head where, okay, if he gets me down, it's a wrap. I can't get his wrestling matches mine. And then if I can't get him down and he's just wearing on, that's it right there. Like, to me, that's the evolution is Kynan.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, he's very good. He is very good. What do you make of obviously this view? And it's obviously a compliment above anything else, but obviously the criticism that the wrestlers are getting for competing in sort of blue and purple belt brackets, calling you sandbaggers and that type of thing.
It's fair, but as you know, the rules are the rules. I had to go compete blue belt first. There's literally no other option. Same for Helen. Same with Pat Downey. He has to go compete at blue belt. There's no other way. Yeah. I think it's good too. You know what? There's blue belts out there that are really good. Pat Downey had a really tough semifinals match, that Italian kid. Yeah. And that kid almost beat him. So you now have a shot at beating someone with a big name, even if you're at blue belt. I think it's great. Criticism, sure. I love it, but it doesn't really bother me. I think there's more value to the traditional format of blue, purple, brown, black in that order. It gives everyone a shot to beat those big names, Go beat them. Blue belts now are so good, I'm assuming, than compared to what they were 15 years ago. And I think it's great. I don't even hear the criticism. There's literally rules that don't let Pat Downey go any belt higher. And guess what? Pat Downey would go at black belt if he could. Ask Pat Downey, he'll tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the belt system a lot, and we have a lot of chats about the belt system. But the more I think about the belt system, I think it's such a personal thing. And I think if you look at your own journey, where you are in jiu-jitsu, that's where you should be at your belt. So if you're a purple belt now, and you look at your whole journey at jiu-jitsu and your knowledge, just individual to you, are you a purple belt in your knowledge? Forget about how good you are compared to other purple belts, where you are in your full journey to become a black belt, to be the best version of yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like I'm still a blue belt. How far can I go with my potential? I've still got loads to learn and loads to go. Whether I'm better than most of the blue belts in our club or who I go against, that's irrelevant, because it's my potential, and everyone's potential is slightly different. So if you look at it like that, I don't think anyone could be a sandbagger, because how long have you been training for?
Yeah.
How long have you been training for? 2 years? It's you can only learn a certain amount of information in that 2 years. Whether you're really good at wrestling and you're physically really good, or you pick it up faster, it's how long it will you take to get to your black belt. And I think that's the most important thing.
I like the belt system. I know there's a lot of criticism. I think it's really unique. As someone who wrestled, you go enter an open tournament, you get smashed by somebody first. Oh man, I'm out. But the belt system lets you have a shot at competing against good people, and you could take it at whatever pace you want. I think it's unique. No matter what happens, I feel 10 years from now, the belt system should still exist. I think it's very good. I think it allows people to develop, like you're saying, on their own personal journey. If you want to remain blue belt for 10 years, good. Okay, good. If you want to do it in 10 months, sure. I think it's really unique. It gives people more options, more flexibility, more opportunity. I like the belt system. I think it's
I completely agree.
Yeah, the criticism, you're right, it's a funny one. And I think it's obviously calling anybody a sandbag is almost a compliment, isn't it? It's maybe a criticism to the coach, but a compliment to the athlete, because they're saying you're better than your belt is suggesting. But you're right, you are kind of limited. You're not in control of your belt.
Yeah.
Even with your IBJJF, going back to the rules, I mean, I think it's 2 years, isn't it? They need you to be at a belt before they let you compete at a higher one anyway.
Yeah, unless you win a world title.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So it's funny that I have a different relationship with belts and I am literally begging my coaches. I'm like trying to negotiate deals. I'm like this. I'm like, hey, if I go win blue belt worlds, can I get the purple? They're like, hey, you shouldn't be even asking this. I'm like, hey, we gotta. I have goals. I have a timeline. I'm trying to hit it. And so they've told me that, hey, this is not how it goes. I'm like, that's fine. I'm going to continue to bother you and be a pest. But yeah, it's like, that's my relationship with belts.
That's good that you have that sort of relationship though with your coaches, because like I know coaches that if you even mention like promotion of a belt, they'll like hold you back on purpose just to be a dickhead.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So at least you have that like good relationship, and you're being like you're able to do that, because I reckon there's a lot of coaches out there. Whereas if they were like that, they'd be like, "Fuck you, mate! You were staying at purple belt for 2 years."
But I think it does depend on your goals, as you say, mate. Because I think if you're like, look, I'm 33, I want to be a black belt world champion.
Yeah.
I'm out getting to sort of finals, winning world titles. Like I need to fast track through these belts before I run out of time from a biological perspective to be able to achieve that. So I think it's about having an honest conversation and finding the right coach, I guess.
Yeah, I have the right coaches. Kevin Rick and Josh Jackson are the best. And, they did give me pushback in the beginning. They're like, this is not how it goes. And I go, I know. And I've discussed my goals. And they're like, okay. And they've been open to hearing that. And then obviously I've fully committed to the sport. I've fully committed to the gym. It's 10th Planet Poway all day. And I will tell people that on the mat. And I very much owe my jiu-jitsu journey to them. Like, I'm only doing jiu-jitsu because Josh and Kevin literally signed me up for ADCC and literally walked over the border with me. So they know how committed I am to this whole journey. And now I've laid out my goals. We've had open communication. So they've been great. I still get pushback. Josh wants me to go be a purple belt Grand Slam. He's like, we got to go to Brazil. We got to go do this. And I'm like, all right, fine. You're right. I'm going to listen to you. I listened to you for going to ADCC Open. I'm going to listen to you on this. It'll give me more experience. It'll be fun. So yeah, I think it's your own individual relationship with your belt, your coach, all that. How do you want to approach it? I'm very grateful that I have them. I don't know what I would do if it was like a more traditional setup. I'd be stuck at blue belt, just miserable. Hey, what are we doing? I really like my coaches.
I think with the introduction of professional grappling and no-gi, you are seeing more of this, I think. So, I think you're seeing less of that holding of people back, and it's allowing people just to achieve athletically what they can achieve and just letting them crack on. And of course, you've got the other side now as well, which you're seeing much more of, where you've got these kids coming of age, and again, from a sort of federation perspective, they're getting to maybe 16 and they can only have a blue belt, but they've been training for 10, 15 years in some cases. And it's it's a similar thing, isn't it? It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, there was a Brazilian girl that just went blue to black in 2 years, right? And she did it through the IBJJF. I don't know her name, but I just know a young girl came through and was blue, won world title at no gi, purple belt gi, brown belt no gi, and black belt back to gi. She just boom, 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 boom legally. She's been training her whole life.
Yeah. That's one way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's the kind of pragmatic approach you kind of want to see a little bit of, I think. So that kind of makes sense to allow that.
Well, there can be no debate, can there, of your belt rank at that point. You know what I mean? If you're winning at a world level, you clearly deserve the next belt. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah, and jiu-jitsu is wrestling. Jiu-jitsu on the feet, that's wrestling. It's the same thing. Jiu-jitsu and wrestling on the feet, it's the same. We're trying to get a takedown. There's a bunch of crossover, it's not that much different. There's just a lot of details from American wrestling, but jiu-jitsu, Gracie, original stuff, they're trying to take people down. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're trying to be on top.
Yeah, 100%. And your kind of future plans with competing, mate? Is it are you gonna do ADCC? Are you gonna do obviously continue doing IBJJF? I know obviously Pat had his recent issues, so he's probably not going to be doing IBJJF again, or he may have calmed down.
Yeah.
He might do. But what's your thoughts? Are you going to continue through the kind of varying belts, but also do like more pro grappling alongside that as well?
I will follow the traditional IBJF road here and do all belts. That's my goal. Win a world title at every belt. And then I will do all the pro. I will literally compete as much as I humanly can. I was supposed to go down to Florida this coming weekend, but I torn a bit of my labrum. I'm healing up. I might do the San Diego Open here, ADCC, if I can. I'm still not sure about that, but I'm going to just compete as much as I can. That's my anything. I will compete everywhere I can, all the time.
Yeah. Do you train in the gi?
I will put the gi on. I've put it on maybe 10 times in my life.
Okay.
But, Atos is down the road, and I think they all have the gi on right now, so maybe I'll get down there. I mean, it's a different sport, but I love it. It's just the frustration and the difficulty of it is like what draws me to it as well, just what drawn me to the jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, I'll train in the gi. God, if I could win something. I don't think I'll ever win a world title in the gi, but I want to win something, Like, that would be a big goal of mine.
Yeah, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? The gi is so hard, man.
It's so
the gi
hard.
Is so hard. Like,
it's so hard.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Well, you're basically it's like jiu-jitsu with a weapon, isn't it? Essentially,
Yeah.
You've got this weaponized cloth that you can use against people, which if they're not used to, is just a nightmare to deal with.
Yeah, Keenan, I challenged him to the gi, and that didn't go well.
I'll bet you that didn't. He's really good in the gi.
Master of the worm guy challenging to a gi match. That's not a good idea.
Gosh, yeah.
How often do you train with him?
Too much, like 2 or 3 times a week, 3 times a week.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, I have a great circle down here in San Diego. So my home gym is 10th Planet Poway, but there's just this network here where there's 10th Planet Poway, South Bay, the other 10th Planets. Then you have Atos, you have Legion, obviously. You have like this epicenter with Justin Flores where pros and black belts can come from any gym. And what happens is that becomes like this little melting pot of everyone in San Diego. Lions, like Johnny Tom was there as well, and Daniel Saffler. And you have like just such crazy crossover where we all train so much together. Like I could be at 4 different gyms during the week. And I train a lot with Keenan. He's kind of like my mentor as much as one of my coaches, like Kevin and Josh. But I listen to what he says, He's been effective at this jiu-jitsu game, so I will listen to his opinion as much as I try to resist it. I will listen to it. But yeah, I train with him a lot. I train with everybody. I train as much as I can. Ronaldo was, try to call me to go to Victory Open, Matt, but I got to heal up right now, so he's going to have to go on his own.
Yeah, it does look like a good place to train. We're heading out to Texas in a couple of months to train, but I think San Diego's got to be on the list at some point as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think you guys next year. I reckon next year we'll do that one.
Yeah, we've had Owen Jones on the podcast a couple of times, who you'll probably know, but he's headed out to San Diego a few times as well, and speaks very highly of it.
He loves training with PJ Barch, doesn't he?
Yeah. Is that traditionally how it's been, this crossover? Like, I think it's like, oh, this is like this crazy thing, but it's always been like that, right?
No. So we've had a number of conversations and we've experienced it a little bit personally in the UK as well, where historically there's been it's been frowned upon to cross-train and train elsewhere.
Yeah.
What you called a crayons?
Yeah.
Crayons, the old Brazilian word for traitor.
Yeah. Crayons. Yeah, I've been called that by everybody, so...
Yeah. But no, I think you're certainly seeing more of it now. And again, we're speaking for the UK. The States may be very different, but going back, again, I've been around the sport for a long time, or the martial art for a long time, I would say, and certainly going back, 5, maybe certainly 10 years ago, you didn't cross train. You just didn't.
Yeah, mate. Even when I started, the first year of me training my first coach, he wouldn't say not to cross train. He would just give you absolute fuck for cross training. So like he wouldn't effectively go, "You're not allowed to cross train." But if you did, he would just fucking ruin you, and it would be and then his little minion of followers would ruin you as well. And it would be like, you ended up not wanting to go back and train because you know what was going to happen because you was in a photo at a club, like locally, you know what I mean? At a different club. So it was just like, oh my God.
I get it. I get having your team and like, no, we believe in our system is better than that system. Like, I get that. I think wrestling has helped. Like, I know personally for me, because I wrestle and I'm, a volunteer coach of the Poway wrestling program. And just because of the way it's set up, I can actually train with jiu-jitsu people there on the mat with wrestlers. That has made me like neutral. Like, I don't have 10 years of animosity towards any other team. I'm stoked on jiu-jitsu and excited to learn a Kimura. So like, it just has made my ability to do that probably like so much easier. So wrestling is almost neutral. Like, you're going to see wrestlers coming in, it's going to be neutral. I want to learn jiu-jitsu. There's no history there. I think that has helped me personally. I think we'll see more of that. And then I think, like you guys were saying, the whole giving people a hard time, I get it. But I think that maybe did change really quickly. Maybe that changed really quickly because I've heard the stories about, not being able to train here, not train there, and how could you? But right now, it is in San Diego, like, weirdly supportive of each other. I work with Jananis Gracie, but I train with PJ Barch, and I'm neutral. Like, they might one day meet up. Like, undoubtedly that will happen, but I have both of their best interests. Like, I just want them both to win if I, could help it. PJ's wrestling is way slicker than mine too. Like, I'm not going to tell him anything you don't know. So there's that. But yeah, I think that neutral kind of city territory, we're like, hey, let's just all train together. We're all going to be better. If we run into each other down the road at a tournament, so be it. But there's more benefit to actually training together so we can beat everyone else on the way to the finals. That's the way I think that's been accepted here in this city. Is like, we all want each other to get better. And if we meet in the finals, so be it, but we'll kill everybody else.
Yeah. And I think it's certainly gone that way now. So locally for us, that's very much the case for the most part. And I think what you've seen as well, a couple of factors. I think sometimes you'll have smaller communities where you might have, I don't know, the coach and a top student fall out, the top student opens their gym, and then there's animosity. And I think also what you've seen, obviously a massive change now in the last few years as well, is obviously YouTube and learning resource and the availability of it. And I think that's kind of opened up all the secrets now, whereas before it may have been, oh, well, I've got these secret techniques that are going to beat everybody, so let's not share that. Yeah. Because that's the edge, but now everybody knows everything, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think the training strategy, like how to peak condition-wise and the strength and conditioning and the cardio, I think those are still pretty, like, that's where you have a gym where you're kind of like, this, we have a system here. Like, this is, I know we're going to cross-train, learn techniques, but like, that's where I feel like there's still not even like, I think it's probably a good thing. Like, okay, you have to pick a way to go about it and like dedicate, like, I'm going to follow this strategy and see how it goes, Like, Atos has a very high school wrestling and collegiate wrestling style where there's a warm-up. They do this, there's drilling, there's cardio after, like hard training. Like Legion, we train so hard. We go like hour-long rounds, crazy. So like, there's different approaches that way that you probably see differences in gyms. I think that's where like just good gyms are going to pick a route and go with it. And they probably all works in the end. Everyone thinks it's a secret formula, like even when it comes to strength and conditioning, like now we're seeing like, don't overtrain, only train twice a week and don't do this. Like, that's kind of a newer mindset. It's a big melting pot experiment. And it's just nice to be in San Diego where I'm at, where everyone kind of sees the benefit of it.
Yeah. Let's get into the that type of cross training as well, between not obviously different schools, but obviously jiu-jitsu and then strength and conditioning and gym work, because Danny and I are fitness coaches and we're looking to try and leverage some of our expertise online, through this podcast a little bit more, because historically you see jiu-jitsu practitioners, as again, the athletes are maybe a slightly different story, but the hobbyists certainly barely do any gym work. They just do loads of jiu-jitsu. Obviously wrestling, your physicality is very obvious.
Yeah.
And I think you guys spend a lot of time in the gym as well. I think your channel and your gym is American Strength in Combat.
Yes.
So tell us about your thoughts on the optimal blend of gym work strength and obviously combat sport technique.
Yeah. So the optimal blend, I think, starting with like a baseline, what everyone could agree with is like we are somewhat sturdy physically. Like there's a baseline. I can do 10 pull-ups. I can squat a good amount. I don't really have any crazy imbalances. It's like ideal. Now, if you don't have that, I would like start with a like run-of-the-mill normal strength and conditioning program that you could get, from a good personal trainer. It's like we're gonna do squats, we're gonna do pulls, I've actually cut out bench press completely out of my training because of my shoulders, my labrum that I have torn repeatedly. But we want upper body strength, lower body strength. Now, like once you have a baseline level, that's when we can like really start like redlining different parts. So right now for me, as I go back and forth with people on this, some people will do hit strength and conditioning right before jiu-jitsu and then get on the mat. That's Keenan's approach. He lifts right next to the mat and then walks on the mat and competes or trains while kind of exhausted. I'm trying to win rounds in practice, and I don't have technique, so I will lift after my rounds because I want all my energy saved up. So for me, my strength and conditioning now is typically I will have 2 days at the gym. Like today, I'm going to go to the gym after this podcast. I will hit nothing crazy. I'll do squats, 5 or 6 sets, light. I won't do any bench. I used to do bench, but now I do cable flies, pulls, lots of pulling. I have a good physical therapist who's working with me on my shoulders and abs. I have a whole little ab routine. Nothing crazy. And then that's it. That will be what I do today. If I was doing jiu-jitsu today, like if I was going to go to an open mat, I'd do an open mat. Maybe I would do half of that routine right there at the gym that I'm at, right? Most gyms now have some lifting equipment. So I'd try to bang it out right after jiu-jitsu. This is an efficient way to do it. I'm here doing jiu-jitsu. I could put 30 minutes in lifting. I'm going to be fast, get it in, done. So yeah, I'm lifting typically 2 days isolated at the gym and then adding in 2 days of lifting, 30-minute quick sessions right after my jiu-jitsu practices. And then no running. God, do I hate running. I will do hill sprints, less impact on my knees, less impact on my joints. I don't have any knee or hip problems, knock on wood. I'd like to keep it that way, but I will do hill sprints. I want to say once a week because I'm on the podcast, but gosh, it's more like once a month. It's when someone's like, hey, let's go hit the hill. I'm like, all right, dang it. Like, I'm going to throw up. It's not fun. But yeah, that's my approach. I did lift a bunch before starting jiu-jitsu. I got made fun of for being fat by my friends, like 6 months, like at the beginning of 2023. And they're like, dude, you're gross. And like, I was like, oh, I'm going to get in shape. And I just lifted so hard for 6 months. And then I started jiu-jitsu. I was just like trying to get physically fit. I did not like friends making fun of me. So that's usually all right. Isn't that the motivation between all of us? Someone said something to us in our childhood or adulthood, hurt our feelings, and now we're doing some jiu-jitsu or lifting, right?
Yeah, often is the case. That's the friends you want, though, mate. Isn't the ones that call you out on your laziness? What are you weighing now, mate? Because you made Brandon look pretty small. I thought when you were posted next to each other.
Brandon's weighs more than me. Brandon's 250.
Really?
I'm probably 243 right now. If I jumped on the scale. I've gotten up to 256, but I'm pretty bloated at 256.
Yeah.
At 243. I'm like a blown up 205 pounder, It's like I am like stuff in my face, like, in every way possible with, everything. So I'm probably like a little 205 pounder, just blown up to 240, 245.
Yeah, okay. What's your height?
6 foot.
Okay. Yeah, still a pretty big boy though, huh?
Yeah. I'm wide. My whole family's pretty wide at the shoulders.
And how about like, I don't know, multi-directional movements and plyometrics and that sort of thing? Do you bother with any of that?
So I probably do. I like to make fun of all these terms, like functional. Was it functional patterns?
Yeah.
I was talking about that. I'm like, oh, you mean like lifting a weight, you know? But I think it's a good way for people to understand what it is they're doing. So one of my exercises I will do after jujitsu is I will pick up like a big body bag, like a 100-pound bag, and I'll put it on this shoulder and I'll squat with it and I'll pretend I'm doing a double and I'll throw it on this one and have a whole routine. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure this is one of those terms where it's functional patterns or whatever it might be. And I'm sure it's some combination of both strength and like explosive power and, you know, cardio involved, where like I'm going to do 10 of these. Okay, I'm exhausted, gasping for air, but I'm also still trying to be explosive. So I don't know all the terms. I think there's a lot of old school approaches that hit it, but like you have to put a label on it. You have to call it something. Me going, oh, I pick up a big bag and I do a bunch of squats over my shoulder sounds silly. It's like a big meathead. It would be nice if I could say, oh yeah, this is the plyometric functional whatever. That would be much better.
So what I was really asking then in plain language is, do you like do side to side work and do you do jump training?
Whenever someone makes me go to one of the training sessions, I will do that on my own with that bag. I'll do like one-legged squats. I'll go side to side. I'll also in my warm-ups, I'll do things like that where I'm hopping on one leg, jumping back and forth. Yeah. I don't have like something set though, like a system that I follow. I probably should, but it's so much funner to like pick up a person and do it.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I guess, as you say, if you've got a base level of strength, do you get enough from just squeezing and pushing and pulling people and picking people up? Maybe.
Yeah.
And also with, I guess another question is around the flexibility as well. It's like, what's the kind of balance of strength, flexibility? You know, if you're bigger and you're jacked, are you less flexible? Do you need to focus on that? I mean, I don't know if that's a consideration for you.
I'm so not flexible. It's one of my big points. I have good flexibility in my hips kind of, but like to get my lower back like a guard, I'm so unflexible. I could totally use some sort of dedicated stretching. It's like, I feel like that's the one a lot of people ignore, and it's probably a very important one. I mean, maybe I'll just be inspired after this podcast and sit down and figure out how to improve. I probably will.
Go and see Cameron Shane, mate. Budokan University.
Feeling, so I'm going to go. I'm like, I got to go get flexible. Like, what a gap! What a silly thing to ignore in jiu-jitsu.
Mate, in fairness, though, I started doing a lot more stretching the last like 6 months, and it makes. I got a client that pays me to sit there and basically do some stretching with them. Yeah. And at first, I was like, oh, this is so boring, but over time, it actually helps so much, mate. Like just those little movements, and I'm not. Nothing crazy. I'm not stupidly flexible now, but I'm way more flexible than I was because I was in a similar position. You just lifted heavy and just stiff, but I feel like now, like, you know, my hip mobility and my being able to invert and stuff like that is definitely like way better than it was. You know, when I first started jiu-jitsu, I couldn't cross my legs. Wow. I couldn't sit on the floor and cross my legs. You know what I mean? Like,
I didn't know you were that bad.
Yeah, mate, I couldn't cross my legs. I remember sitting on jiu-jitsu and be like, I can't cross my legs here.
Yeah.
That's the truth. And now I'm like way more flexible than that. So jiu-jitsu does help, but just even an hour or so a week, just sitting there and doing some pigeon stretching, just some groin stretching and just some movements. It is boring as fuck, but just do it, you know, because especially for us bigger boys, because again, as you get better, you need it. You know, so we've been in class, haven't we, and they're doing like a berimbolo technique or like a neck stacking thing, and we're like, Paul's got the funniest thing ever, mate. When he was trying to do it, he just completely tapped out. He just sat on the side and was like, "I'm not doing it for my neck."
Flat refuse, mate.
It's like I'm not doing it. But like, I've got to a point now where I can participate. You know, not perfectly, but I can participate. And then this year, I want to be able to be able to do it. You know, lose a little bit more weight and then be able to berimbolo.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both.
Oh, mate, it'd be the dream, wouldn't it?
It's hard.
Who's that geezer in America? He's got he knocks around with Big Dan, Mobility Monster. Have you seen him? Oh my God, he's a giant and he can fully invert.
Well, Well, it's like Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo could triangle himself when he was younger, and he can onomatopoeia himself still, and he's like.
But this mobility monster though is stacked. Yeah. Like he's huge, isn't
like 350. He's
like a giant man, and he can invert.
Hey, Big Dan's a guy that's flexible. There you go.
Yeah, he's big as well, isn't he? But he's not like matured into that muscle bound freak yet, is he?
I hope he never does. God.
He's not got on that juice yet, and not gone to Gordon Ryan.
Never matures into his potential. God, nightmare.
Mate, I think some yogis will probably argue with me, but I'm convinced that unlike strength, like people are limited to what they can achieve with flexibility. I think some people are born a particular way, their hips sit a certain way, their shoulders sit a certain way. Some people are very flexible by nature. Other people can achieve a degree of flexibility through effort, but will never get to that level.
I could never see me getting to be able to do splits. I think if I trained every day to be able to do it, I don't think I'd ever get there.
So we should do a study on this. Are we all just lying to ourselves, or should we all?
Should we actually try? Should we log it and try for a year? For a year, how do we get on?
Man, I want to know, because strength we know. I want to know flexibility. Am I lying to myself? Like my wrist flexibility is this.
Oh mate, I'm the same. I broke this wrist and it's so bad. If someone tries wrist locking me straight away, I'm like, what? Tap.
Yeah. My coach can walk on his wrist to a handstand and walk on top of him.
But that's like a natural thing, isn't it? You got those fuckers who can bend their thumbs completely flat to their wrist in double jointed. That's just a natural thing. There's no way, no matter if I train my thumb every day, I'd never get there.
Maybe though. Maybe, you know what? Let's go do it. I want to find out. If I'm sitting here and I could do that, and I'm just going, no, I couldn't. God, it's just painful.
But this is the barrier of this research, mate. It is so boring to do that. Like no one's ever going to last long enough to see the study out, are they? That's a problem.
When we come to San Diego, we don't roll, mate. We'll sit there and we'll do an hour stretching session, all right, and see who's the most flexible.
see who's the most patient. You mean?
That's it.
Yeah, let's do that. That's like me. I get yelled at for skipping warm-ups all the time, like a typical purple belt. Like, I'm warm. I woke up warm to get to the car. Yeah.
That's the purple belt prerogative, mate. You should be allowed to do that.
I prefer just a movement warm up anyway. Just a few slow rounds and then you're into it.
Yeah, my old school, I turned the heater on in the car. That's what I used to do. I turned the heater on. Do
you go from 0 to 100 though? You know what I mean? Like first round's all in.
My first round's all in. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a few Polish guys like that.
You know, when you look at the clock and you're like, God, what's going on? And you're 3 minutes in and your heart's racing and you go, oh, I think I'm going to die right now. And then you can finally breathe and get through. But that 3 minute sprint, you're like, what am I doing? Yeah, I try and get that done. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm so lazy, I show up to a competition, I don't even have to warm up. And I'm like, I hope this first guy doesn't kill me because I'm not ready. I want to sit on top.
Yeah, I find that mad. I'm a little bit older than you two, so I need a nice little pulse rate and a little bit of mobility. Otherwise, I just feel like a rock. So give it 7 years, boys, and then you'll be warming up.
I'll be retired.
I'll be broken by then,
yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Mate, I was going to ask you a little while ago when we were talking about the wrestling coming into jiu-jitsu thing, but I heard you mention as well about obviously you're seeing jiu-jitsu evolve and become more popular. I mean, how do you think jiu-jitsu is going to change as a result of more wrestlers and more of that physicality coming in? Do you think there's going to be more gym work? Do you think there's a technical change that needs to happen?
Yeah, I think jiu-jitsu, wrestling, I think the people that are doing jiu-jitsu now, like a Kainen, will get better at wrestling. Then I think we're going to see if there's more wrestlers doing it, there's more Americans that are going, hey, you know what? I don't want to wrestle for the NCAAs to get free school. I want to go win $1 million at CJI. I think you're going to see a flood of athletes come over, and then you're going to have really well-defined rule sets. Like MMA is a pretty well-defined rule set. I think that will happen as well. I think technique-wise, I'm already seeing it. There's stuff that's done in jiu-jitsu with the legs when you put hooks in that will apply to college wrestling that they just have never – they haven't needed to get to that point of control that it actually applies really well. So 10th Planet Poway, I was changing gyms, and they're at Poway High School for a little bit, and literally there was wrestling in one room, and then in a little room they're doing jiu-jitsu, and people would go back and forth, and immediately like you would see is, like having a sweep single hook in jiu-jitsu, like most people have a really good ability to pull, right? Especially my coach Kevin. And so we were seeing like these little nuances in a single leg shot from jiu-jitsu that was applied to high school wrestling, and then riding legs and so forth. And then for like a front headlock in wrestling was applying really well to jiu-jitsu. So I think you're going to see like more refined techniques. Like the leg riding in jiu-jitsu is so much better than it is for wrestling. So I think you'll see that come in. And I always say leg riding, I mean hooks. So that's what it's called in wrestling. Leg riding is hooks. So I think you're going to see more refined technique. I think you'll see more freak athletes coming through. And I just hope more money comes in so that everyone can support themselves doing it. I think that's going to happen. I definitely think mainstream jiu-jitsu is on its way. Like,
Yeah.
I'll expect.
And without obviously, sort of seeing yourself off here, but if you, I don't know, you're a UK-based purple belt, so they're rubbish at wrestling by default because we don't wrestle, and they're coming against an American wrestling-based purple belt.
Yeah.
What do you think that British purple belt needs to focus on to deal with a sort of wrestling style of jiu-jitsu?
You can have a good focus on keeping, and I've ran into this in one of my matches. There's a Brazilian black belt. He just kept his elbows in and down and would not let me penetrate the leg. So wrestling, I was just coaching this the other day. It's all about getting your head past my elbows, right, for a good shot. I'm just talking takedowns, not the J-Flow cool flippy stuff, but like a shot, double leg, single leg, high C. And so if you could stop a human being from getting their head past your elbows and keep them in front of you, just be cagey and be disciplined. Don't start reaching, right? That's what I would suggest. Like, this guy's going to be coming in faking. He's going to be pulling on your head. What he's trying to get you to do is to get you to reach so that he can shoot past those elbows to your legs. Now, if you can maintain discipline and keep your hands in front of you, keep this guy in front of you, elbows in. And when he starts pulling on your neck, let's have a little elbow pass without exposing ourselves. That's what I would suggest. Like, don't be afraid. Like, if you stay disciplined, you can stay on the feet and survive. And then, then get a hold of him and pull guard and get to his leg and, knee bar him. That's what I suggest.
That's my plan, mate.
There's a way to beat wrestling, It's be cagey, be defensive, and don't get extended. That's kind of like the whole game of wrestling, is to get an opening for a split second. It's kind of a very like game of inches there at the high level.
Yeah. And in the sort of 18 months, 2 years that you've been doing jiu-jitsu, I mean, what are there any kind of common problems that or the biggest problems that you've come across, like in jiu-jitsu, that frustrate you the most to deal with?
Passing a guard is so much harder than I thought it would be. I had no idea how hard it would be. And then I'm getting exhausted trying to pass a guard. I can wrestle on my feet and never be tired. The moment I'm trying to pass a good guard, I'm like, like it's tough. That was my biggest, right now in the middle of it. It's my biggest obstacle is trying to pass the guard and then dealing with good wrestling in jiu-jitsu. Like, there's good wrestling in jiu-jitsu. Brandon Reed has good wrestling. I know he is a wrestler, but like Felipe Pena, I did like a 20-minute round with Pena, and he has fantastic wrestling and took me down. I was like, this is like D1 level wrestling. This is an NCAA championship level wrestling. Like the sweep single, he hit it, and I was like, holy smokes. So the good wrestling is out there. Pena, you wouldn't think of a good wrestler, but like when we actually were feeling it out and I had my hands on him, I was like, this guy is good at wrestling. So to not be caught off guard by good wrestling from someone who's doing jiu-jitsu, Keenan has a good single leg that, like, I don't know why he does. He shouldn't. The way he's out there in this lazy wrestling stance, why have a good single leg? Like, where did you get that? Like, you take me down with it. Pisses me off so much. How? Why? Why do you have a good single? So like running into that is very funny. I'm like, how'd that happen? Yeah, that's been my biggest thing, is like try not to be surprised by good wrestling and jiu-jitsu, and then learning to pass a guard. Yeah, that's it. Back control. Suck at back control. I cannot get hooks in to save my life, but I'm working on it. I usually get reversed. If I put hooks in, put a body triangle on somebody, I'm usually going to end up on bottom.
That might be that flexibility there, though, mate.
Yeah, something like that.
That's where that pigeon stretch is going to help.
Yeah, I'll hit you up on that for some insight.
Yeah. And what do you think of the different rule sets? Because obviously, as somebody who competes at ADCC, you've competed in IBJJF. I heard you talk about obviously the introduction of the pit or the alley and the impact that's going to have as well. Sort of, what's your thoughts on the varying rule sets, and what do you think the kind of best one is maybe for your style?
Well, for my depends. I kind of like IBJF because I don't have to get hooks in to score. ADCC, you have to get hooks in. The pit wall will change everything. I'll say that. The pit wall also solves all the problems of going out of bounds. In college wrestling, you could play the out of bounds game and do this and that, but it's just a bit scary with the IBJF because you get penalized real fast. That scares me. Yeah, my style, it's got to be IBJF of all things. The pit wall would be awesome. We have one here in Poway Martial Arts, and we have a corner. And then I'm going to have a gym built here probably in the next 3 or 4 months that we're building out. I'm going to have a whole pit wall in a corner put in. I think that I'm hearing a lot of rumors about that being looked at by big organizations.
I think it's got to be, mate. It solves all the problems of jiu-jitsu from a spectator point of view. If you're watching jiu-jitsu, like my wife watched CJI. She doesn't even have a clue, but it's exciting to watch. And that's it. She is the perfect example. If she can watch it, any man in the world can enjoy it. You know what I mean?
All she watched was Gabby Garcia, Craig Jones. Okay, this is it. Yeah, the pit wall solves everything. And it makes it, you can't stall. You cannot stall.
No.
And if you end up on bottom, but then you have Daniel Saffler doing the jumping, flying triangle stuff. I'm like, in the Karate Combat Pit Submission Series. Oh my gosh. I think we all need to just say, hey, I know it costs more to build it, but every single organization needs to just do the pit wall. And I think they will. I'm hearing some bigger organizations are going, we're going to design a pit design. Yeah, I don't want to say if it's triangle, square, or other shapes that will be introduced to jiu-jitsu. That will change it. Rule set wise, just I would like to see the pit wall. I like to compete in it. I'd love to throw Pat Downey into it and stay on top, or just drop back, pull guard, and get onto his leg. That'd be funnier. Just not even wrestle him. Come and talking all this trash, pull guard on him.
We got Pat on soon, mate. We'll tell him.
But yeah, rule set wise, I think we all got to go to the pit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good introduction. And we spoke to Brendan McCaffron from PJF a while back, and he was saying that he thinks there's going to be a whole game around just, using that as again a tactic or a weapon, like you see in MMA with the cage.
Yep, we're working on it here. We had a lot of experience with people competing at CJI, so I'm trying to work out the nuances right now and have my friends ready here in San Diego. So I'd like to have it available to all of them, because you're right. There is entire games that we don't know about yet that can be played off of it. Yeah.
And I think like Danny was saying about his wife as well and your other half, but I think if we ever want to see jiu-jitsu get close to even being mainstream, which of course we all want to see, then I think you need to kind of do something for the spectators. And
it's the stoppages, mate. Yeah. Like when I first started watching jiu-jitsu, I was so bored, mate, watching ADCC, and it just kept getting a heel hook and just rolling out of bounds. And I was like, so it's just boring. It's like, and
getting points really well defined. My parents will watch me compete and they're like, I have no idea who's winning. Like they have no idea how to score points. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Me neither. I'm on the mat and I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think it would be good, like a universal rule set of just jiu-jitsu. This is how we're going to score it. everywhere. There's not going to be like, I don't know, some sort of governing body that controls something, you know. And then just have it in a pit, and we're good to go. Then we know where we're at, and it's fun, and we can just televise it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to see it. It's exactly why I stopped watching boxing and started watching more MMA, because I was sick of the clinching and the stopping and starting. In MMA, obviously, you clinch, you carry on working. So I think if you can facilitate that constant action, then it definitely makes it more friendly for spectators.
And not having officials touch the athletes, like when you have the raised platforms, they're pushing them. You can't. No, LeBron James is not getting touched by a referee. You would be like, hey, that's like interference. I'm trying to do something. Like when like refs and people are being like physically touched to like hold them on, like, hey man, I'm now doing jiu-jitsu against two people instead of one. What is going on? Put them in the pit wall. Problem solved. I don't think that's talked about enough. I don't think you should ever be like trying to roll out of a heel hook and have an official physically stop you. One, I might get my leg snapped. So please don't touch me. And like, there's just no other sport where that's allowed. There's no cornerman touching a boxer. Like the referee can touch him, but no one else. I think that's just absolutely absurd that we allow that. As an athlete, I'm going to be very vocal about that. The referee and my opponent can touch me, no one else. I don't know why we allow it.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point, mate. It's a really good point. But yeah, let's see. We'll see if that comes in more and more, and obviously see jiu-jitsu becoming more and more popular as a result.
Yeah, I think it will.
Yeah, let's hope so. Mate, tell us a little bit about your plans with American Strength and Combat.
Yeah, this was Keenan's fault. We're sitting there and I go, yeah, I want to do this. And he's like, well, you're going to compete professionally. It's a tough living to do that. Really, you got to open a gym. I was like, well, I'll do this online thing, like Justin Flores, the J-Flow Academy for, I think it's $30 a month. The amount of instructional material on there is absurd. Like you should be charging $500 a month for that. That is so good. So that online website I have at American Strength and Combat, I'm still developing more and more stuff to put on there, just very basic wrestling. Eventually add in the old school strength and conditioning that I do. But the gym itself, I've realized you can learn a lot online, but there are a lot of details and nuance in person. So we have a building and we have a little 2,000 square foot space. I'm going to put hopefully 1,000 to 1,500 square foot mat on there with a pit wall. And hopefully early 2025, we will have a gym with a pit wall here in Poway.
That'd be sick. We'll definitely come out, mate. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. So that should be coming. We're doing permitting. We're doing it by the book. So it's taken me a while to get it done. But we have a building and we have a plan and we're trying to build it out as fast as we can. So.
And what's that going to be? Is it going to be a wrestling jiu-jitsu gym?
Oh, yeah. So it'll be all wrestling. I'm 10th one at Poway.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu. So no jiu-jitsu.
Just literally stand-up wrestling, yeah.
Literally just stand-up wrestling.
Nice.
Stand-up wrestling. Maybe light MMA. I'll have bags in there for people that want to hit I think everyone likes to hit a bag occasionally.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, put some bags in. Have light MMA training, but really have it focused on wrestling. There is no private wrestling gyms around. It is usually youth clubs attached to a high school. So I want to have an actual private wrestling gym where you can walk in like a jiu-jitsu gym for everybody. You want to learn to wrestle? Cool. If you're a jiu-jitsu athlete, I'm going to have it set up that if you're a jiu-jitsu athlete and you have a jiu-jitsu membership, cool. We'll make a huge discount because I know you're just trying to supplement your jiu-jitsu with this. So yeah, that's the plan. Teach wrestling to everybody who wants to learn it the same way that I was taught jiu-jitsu. Anyone, any age, come on in.
Yeah, sounds awesome, mate. Ian, it's been great chatting, mate. We'll let you go in a second. Did you want to shout out anybody or talk about anything else before we let you go?
I mean, my list of friends, I always shout them out. 10th Planet Poway, my coaches are Kevin and Josh, all the people that have helped me and continue to help me. Keenan Cornelius and Sloan, Brailer, Miha, everyone at Legion, everyone at Athos, Kynan and Ronaldo. Galvao has been very welcoming and nice, letting me get in there and train with his guys. And then Poway Wrestling, PJ Barch, that handsome devil. Adam Bradley too. Just all those guys. I love them all. Janatas Gracie too. They are the only reason I am able to have any success. Without those guys, I'd just be, I don't know, doing something else, digging ditches or in jail. So
yeah. Yeah, awesome, mate. Well, all the best capturing those multiple world titles, mate. And thanks again for coming on, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys for having me and giving me a place to speak. I love it.